BlockchainTalk. Today we are going to talking about a new layer 1 public blockchain. It's called APTOS. The token of all the APTOS is APT. Okay, so basically it's become very hot. I think it's at the beginning of this month. It's a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be 2 weeks ago. Yes, the APT actually launched. It starts from 7 USDT something, and then now up and down, up and down. Now it's become relatively stable at $8. So let's talking about the APT. Yeah. So what's happening? So we had another top posted saying that so there's still a room for the public chain because that the consensus algorithm. Yeah. The Ethereum is moving from have been moved from the POW now to POS, and there are something between the POW and POS, and then the POS and the typical BFT, the algorithm, the consensus. There are so many room for the new public chains. Typically, the layer 1 actually there's a concept we need to make clear. It's the layer 1, the public chain, which means all the transaction has to be logged in the mainnet of the public chain. If there any other transaction into the sub chain or the sub chain or the children chains, that might not be exactly like L1. Yeah, the children chain and side chain can become a layer 2. Yeah. So basically, the APTOS is this kind of the layer 1 public chain. All the transactions happening in the mainnet itself. Oh, this is layer 1. There are a couple of the famous, the biggest, the layer 1, the public chain is the Bitcoin itself. Right? Bitcoin is the number 1, very famous one. And then the second one, I think, is the Ethereum. Yeah, Ethereum is the L1. There might be some other L2 solution on top of the Ethereum. Because the Ethereum had a performance issue, right? Only when you have that certain transactions, and then there are solution saying that, okay, there are so many transactions that's happening, they categorize in a group about the transactions. They move those group of transactions to off the mainnet and to the side chains. And then after all the transactions is actually completed, and they have their reward on the secondary or side chains or happening. Everything going on the side chain is up, and then eventually transaction, the end-to-end result will back to the mainnet. So the mainnet won't record all the side chains activities, and the side chain is become an ecosystem of a lot of mainnet. That's layer 2, and then so that's why we need a layer 1. The other ones, the layer 1 actually is another copy. I think it's kind of the innovation as well. I think there are always innovation in this layer 1 public chains. Yeah, so it will be the Solana. Yeah, Solana using the new algorithm called consensus algorithm called proof of history. It's basically it's doing some of the optimization algorithm on top of the timestamp. Yeah, because the transaction usually the transaction in terms of the computer science the algorithm, right? All the transaction actually in the queue, right? They are lining up, right? Lining up one by one, and they solve them one by one. And then there are some of the optimization, the algorithm solution to make this lining up, and then the sequence processing actually become faster. That they use the timestamp to do the optimization. So it depends on, there is so many variants they are doing the algorithm so that they are able to speeding up to increase the performance. And also there are also another way to increase the performance is the number, so multiple way, the number of the transaction in the block. And the time, how frequent the block come into being. So for example, you can have 1 minute a block, or 1 second a block. And one block, how many transactions inside the block? For example, you can have 2,000 transactions in one block, and you can have 10,000 transactions in a block. When you mine it, So you can faster, you're processing the block and the transaction quickly, right? But if you have the block frequency generation as too fast, there might be some performance issue, right? You are losing the transaction, or you are losing the data. For example, that data, and because the internet they are broadcasting all the TCP/IP, right? They're broadcasting. Okay, I get this transaction. Can you mine it or something like that? So if that's what happening on Solana. So now that's why there are so many news. They say that always from time to time Solana actually gone down. It's totally down. Because if you are having the number of block per second actually too many, so you have a performance issue, right? Even you solving this kind of performance issue, you might have a loss in your data, and then there might be some security issue, right? So that's why your performance has to become stable. That's why we call it high availability and high scalability. That is very important. There are impossible triangle, right? In terms of the decentralization, security, and then TPS per second, something like that. You cannot achieve all three at the same time. But there are solutions on that. Don't get me wrong, right? But now there are always a certain time and periods and certain situation you are in that triangle, impossible triangle. So that's why the Solana come into being, and there's also another one called Matic Polygon as well. So, but when they have this kind of consensus algorithm, and then we are making the room for those kind of layer one. What happened for the layer one for APT? APT, I think, is from the former, is inheriting the legacy of the technology from the Facebook. We all know that a couple of years ago, Facebook has a very ambitious, the blue, actually, their blueprint, right? They have the ambitious dream, I think, the inclusive finance, empower the global, billions of the people globally, and using their financial infrastructure. That's called Libra. We still remember that, right? Libra, actually, there is they call it consortium chain, permission chain. It's not a public chain. We need to keep in mind that the Libra is not a public chain. It's called permission-based chain. So they invite about 100 of the big names, big companies to join the governance and entity, and all of them get a certain amount of the token. Actually, we call it governance token to mine their own Libra coin, and then that Libra coin actually will be anchored. Yeah, will be tethered to actually will become the stable coin, and to a certain amount of the, we call it a bucket of the certain currencies. That's really beginning one. The bucket of the currency, I remember, include the US dollar, Japanese yen, Singapore dollar, and I think the European euro dollar as well, and a couple of them, right? And then later on, because Mark Zuckerberg facing trouble in terms of the regulation and compliance, it become moving from a bucket of the currency, become a one-on-one mapping to the US dollar. So it's fading out, right? Eventually, even mapping to one US dollar, they cannot get the green light in the US Congress and in the Senate as well, right? Because of the compliance concern. That's why Libra is fading out. But don't get me wrong, Libra actually has something. Actually, I think is the highlight of the Libra's technology is very good, because it's inventing a move language. The move language, and then this kind of resource programming things. And these kind of the technology legacy have been inherited to the new APTOS and then the SUI, because the former Facebook employee, they quit the Libra, the Libra project, because the Libra project is fading out. And actually, the crypto community actually embraced the Libra technology. Now it's become the APTOS and then the SUI. Actually, these two former Facebook employees, they come into being, become this kind of project. That's why the APTOS has kind of the legacy. And what's the highlight of the APT? And basically is that the move language. Using the Rust language, the program language is much more easier because the Rust, RUST language, yeah, actually is much more better because of the memory safe issue, right? Because making the software become more stable, and then it's easy to achieve the high performance. This is kind of Rust language, programming language in the bottom line. And the second one is that they're using a Move, M-O-V-E programming language to do the smart contract. The whole virtual machine of the Libra, and now I think APT will adapt that virtual machine mechanism and also architectural things as well, because they are using the Move compiler. This is compiling the resources-based programming language. Actually, this use Move to do as a smart contract program language. And that also has advantages compared to the Solidity that's in the Ethereum community. So that's why I believe that Move and then APT, this kind of layer one, has kind of the technology highlight. The third highlight is that I think APT, they claim that they are using the they are using the parallel computing algorithm, right? Because there is a kind of on Bitcoin and then also the Ethereum transactions are taken and processing one by one in sequence, right? In Solana, they claim that they are all in the parallel, right? Everything. For example, there's one kernel, right, of doing the execution, right? And then the Solana, they have multiple 10 of the kernels, so that they can 10 times about faster than, or maybe 100 times faster than Ethereum. I think the Solana claim to have the 60,000 per second, right? And the APT is that kind of not only the multiple tunnel of the execution to processing the transaction. They're also using another further optimization algorithm to do the parallel computing to processing the transactions. That's why they claim that they had a target for going to achieve the 100,000 TPS. TPS, which means transaction per second. 100,000 transaction per second. That's their performance. They are moving on this way. We all know that, so this is kind of hypothetical things, right? Might not happen in reality yet. We haven't tested, we haven't seen the report saying that the APT now achieved 100,000 TPS yet. But there's still a lot of room, right? At least the crypto community. There's always some rumor, and there are always people are working hard on this. That's the highlight for APT, and then also they inherited the Libra legacy to making this APT some of the technical highlights. Blockchain talk. That's what for me for today, talking about the APT technology highlights, and then we look into it. We'll see what happened in the future. Yeah.